Hi everybody, I'm so excited to be here with you, bringing you this video from the craft studio here at Polkadoodles. And I'm even more excited that we've got some brand new products for you today. So this is our latest stamp soup collection. Now, die-hard Polkadoodles fans out there will know that stamp soup is a range that we kind of produce not that often, but maybe a couple of times a year. And stamp soup is basically called soup because we're giving you all of the ingredients to make your own recipe. So it's all about creating your own craft recipe and your own stamping recipe. Now, the thing that I absolutely adore about stamp soup is that when I actually design these stamps, they're not just thrown together. I do have a grand plan to give you some basic ideas of what you're going to make with these. But the fantastic thing is that when these actually get into crafty hands and into your hands, you all make completely different things to what I originally envisaged. And that, to me, as an artist, is just the best thing that can possibly ever happen. So let's take a little look around these two sets. So this is your main item. So you're going to actually get these two sets, and we have Stamp Soup Surprise, which is this one, and you then also have the Garden Glory, which is this one. Now, we've actually, or I've given you all of these kind of coloured images on the front, and this is really as inspiration. You really need to take a look at these because it will help you get started. If you've never seen these before, basically it's a completely unique concept to Polkadoodles, and I kind of invented these back in 2016. I think it was the first ones we brought out. And basically the idea is that you actually, instead of giving you a flower stamp, we're actually giving you elements that make your own flowers. So you would be able to take, for instance, this stamp here, which actually looks like a heart, can actually be a leaf, or it can be a petal, or it can be whatever you want it to be. Everybody sees things differently. So again, here, we've got this great shape here, which again can either be like a leaf or a petal, but also if you actually put a stem on it, you could start thinking, well, that could be actually a tree, or it could be a toadstool. And all of these stamps have multiple uses. There isn't one single stamp in here that can only be used for one thing. So I've actually, just to sort of give you a little intro, I wanted to really explain to you what you're going to be able to create. So if I just take those out of the way for a second, I actually made this little board up for you to just give you some inspiration to hopefully show you what I'm talking about. So for instance, let me see. Okay, so on this set, which is the Garden Glory, we have this lovely leaf stamp, and you can see here the actual inlay, the acetate here is actually pre-colored as well, so it kind of gives you a bit of a guide. So this is kind of drawn as a leaf or a petal. So I took that stamp, and look here, if you actually stamp that out as it is, that's what it comes out like. But then what happens is, if you actually add a little circle, and you have all of these little circles in the sets, so in both sets you've got lots of different circles. Circles are my thing. Circles are the most useful thing that you can have in a stamp set, in my opinion. So I kind of made a little flower center here, and then I've actually taken that stamp and stamped all around the outer edge, and I get this amazing flower, and it's stunning. So now I've gone from having a leaf to the flower. Now, the one thing I would say is, if I was going to actually make this up, I wouldn't use that leaf with that flower, because you want to have a different style of leaf to go with your flower. And then that kind of goes on to something else. So then it becomes butterfly wings as well. So I just stamped them together, and then I actually took one of the other stamps, which is, where's that one? This one here, okay? So I took this stamp, and again, this one could easily be a toadstool. It can be a leaf, it can be a butterfly wing, it can be lots of different things. And look, I've made a butterfly. And even these antennae here for the butterflies are actually in the set of stamps for you here. So all I did was I actually crinkled that stamp. So if I just show you quickly, that's like a line stamp, which can also be a flower stem, or it can be lots of different things. But what I actually did was on your block, because with lines, my block needs cleaning a bit, but you can actually just pinch it. You're not going to damage it just by kind of pinching it together. And all I did was I literally inked it and then kind of did a V with it and then stamped the actual antennae and did it like that. It's not wanting to do it today, but I think it's my block that's a bit greasy. So moving on. So then we also took the same leaf again and we made it into a double leaf. So then you can start to actually create some foliage. So that same stamp here, look, which was the one that's the smaller butterfly wing that we just showed you, that then, if you do the same with that, look at the flower that that creates. And then that can become the big butterfly wings, whereas over here it was the small ones. And now we've actually swapped a different stamp in to create a completely different butterfly. And this is what I was talking about with this toadstool. So also in here, we also have these great stems here. So this is a border, it can be a flower stem, it can be whatever you want it to be. I'll show you some cool things with that later. But this is that one. So you've got a big thick one, and then you've got a thinner one here. So this is the toadstool. And then look, when we actually start to bulk those stamps together, that would make an amazing, I think, 4-leaf clover. Although also you could make a 4-leaf clover with some of the hearts that are actually in the sets. You've got 2 different hearts in these sets. So they make amazing 4-leaf clovers. So if you wanted to do something like a good look card, that would be great. So then that same, we've used again the same flower center. So look, now the flower center even has multi-purpose. So if you start actually blocking those together, they can become berries and flowers. And look what happens. So again, this long stem, that's actually that same line stamp. Look, and I made it a really tall flower. So I actually just stamped it twice and then did it down the other side to actually create a really tall stem. And look, now you start to build up kind of like a hyacinth type flower. And then here I've kind of added one of the other stamps to create a different kind of leaf. So this is what I was saying before, is I would go for maybe this leaf with this flower rather than using the same stamp to create the leaf and the petals, because it's kind of going to look a little bit strange. And then going on further, you're getting the gist now. So we've got other stamps in here. So we've got a different little center, a little circle, smaller petals, and that again is the same one that was the butterfly. And we're kind of bulking these together, completely different flowers, completely different butterfly. And then look what happens. You also have all of these tiny little stamps in here. So some of these little tiny ones, and you kind of look at them and you think, what the heck is that? And why is that in there? Like for instance here, so you've got a little tiny thing that looks a bit like a triangle. Hope you can see that. And that I kind of put in there so that it could be a beak. So look, we've got suddenly turned that flower petal into a little bird. And he's got a little beak, and all you've got to do is draw 2 legs on. And then that also becomes leaves. You could also make it into a bow. So just to kind of give you a look at some other things that you can create, which are moving on from just doing flowers, because I really want you to think about outside of the box. You know, because there are no limits to what you can create here. It's all about your own imagination. And what I always say to people, and what people say back to me once they've tried this system, is that it really opens your eyes and it opens out your crafting. And it's one of those things that's so easy to do, but it also challenges you, because it challenges you to look at everything differently. So look, again, here we've got that same petal, that lovely big petal, which makes amazing flowers. So look, the same principle. Look at the size of this. It's beautiful. And you'll see this again in my demo coming up. And then look, it creates a fantastic toadstool. But all you've got to do is colour it differently, and look, it's a tree. Or colour it differently again, and in the set here, we also have a little square here. And actually, from me designing this until I actually got the stamps, when I got the stamps back, I kind of went, why did I put a square in there? And every single stamp in these sets has a purpose. So it's kind of like a jigsaw and like a puzzle, and you just have to find the purpose of that. And the purpose of it is in your own imagination and whatever you want it to be. So now it's a hot air balloon, and all I literally did was just draw 2 lines. And then here we've got another butterfly. Look what happens here. So here, what I actually did was I actually stamped. Let me just grab the stamp very quickly and show you. So I actually took my stamp and stamped it that way. So I stamped it there, and then I just literally rotated it and stamped it there. And look what happens. You get like a little fab owl. Now, you might not have seen that, or you might have seen that right away. You know, or you might see something else. I also saw a little cat in there as well, and I've actually been making cats. So if I just show you, this is kind of a bit of a freaky cat, but you know, here, look at this. So I just kind of did the little cat's face, and then I put him some paws on, which are in the set. It's a whole stamp, his little paws. And then I used that big, the big stripy border here. I actually made that into his tail, and I actually added some swirls because you've got some swirly bits. And I even made the wall. Every single thing on here is in your sets. So, you know, it is about what you create. So even his eyes and everything, the only thing on here that I hand drew was I actually made his eyelids. So I just drew 2 lines here across his eyelid. But even his little nose is there. His little cheeks are actually in there as well. And I know it's kind of like a little bit far out there, but I just really wanted to show you that you have to think outside the box and just play. Have a really good go. Get some card or some paper, just some scrap paper like I've done here, and I really have a stamp. You kind of, I would say you need maybe 10-15 minutes to really get in the flow, and you'll kind of, because I think those first 15 minutes you're actually really looking at the stamps and looking at both sets and thinking, okay, what else is there in here and everything else. And it isn't until you actually start putting the ink on the stamps and stamping them on the paper that you realize what there actually is that you can create. And if I just show you the front packaging, we've got birds on here, we've got lots of different things. And in my demo, look at her. In my demo coming up next, I'm going to actually show you this and this and this. Okay, so I'll be back in a minute. Okay, so let's get making something. So I've already got all my stamps that I'm going to use on my blocks. So I kind of like to, when I'm doing this, I like to get lots of all my acrylic blocks out, so that I can kind of see what I'm doing, and I get all the stamps next to me ready, again, so that I can see what I'm doing. I'm going to just use a bit of paper underneath there so you can kind of see them. Okay, so this is about an A5 piece of watercolor card. So I'm using the Bockingford watercolor card, which is available on the website. And today I'm actually going to use my Kuretake paints to actually colour this in, but I've already done that. I don't want to show you me colouring it in especially, because I want to get to the end of the demo. Luckily it's not too long. So the first thing that I'm going to do is I am going to take this stamp. So this, again, petal, could be a leaf, but in this case we're actually going to use it as an eye. So I'm going to use my VersaFine ink pad because it's nice and black and juicy, and I like using it because it dries quite quickly. So I'm just going to move it out of the way so I don't get too inky. You know what I'm like. So I'm going to, let me just turn that over so it's clear clean to start with. So about halfway and in the middle, I'm just going to actually stamp that twice, and I'm just going to turn it round, and don't go too far apart. So you kind of probably want about half the size of the stamp space between the two. Okay, so we'll just stamp that down, and then I'm going to take this stamp, which is kind of like an eyeball. So this could be the center of a flower, it can just be like an accessory stamp, but on this occasion we're going to make it the actual eye itself. So I'm going to stamp that into the center, and obviously if you wanted, you could actually make it look a different way if you wanted. So you could actually go side to side to make it look like you know, have a bit of fun with it as well and play around. So I'm going to do it just straight on like this. So put that one to a side, and then we actually have a couple of different stamps. So we're going to go to our line stamps, and you're going to use these loads in these sets. So this one here kind of has two little lines coming off the end, and then this one is just like sort of a bit of an uneven line. So what I'm going to do is this one that's the uneven line, I'm just going to bend that very slightly so it kind of turns up at both sides. And in fact, actually, I'm not going to do that straight away. I'm going to take the other one, and what I'm going to do is we need to kind of create an eyebrow, but also we need to create an eyelid. And if you don't create the eyelid, it can kind of look a little bit strange. So I'm going to just stamp inside that eye and just create the eyelid. Okay, so going from, it doesn't quite fit the whole eye, but just kind of go to the outer edge and then stamp in and make it join, and it'll work perfectly. And then that same stamp we're actually going to use to create the eyebrow. Okay, and don't worry that it's different on each side, nobody's eyebrows are the same anyway. Okay, so we've got a pair of eyes already. Now, the other thing that we're going to actually use here is this stamp. Now, this is a leaf, is a petal, but also is a mouth. Okay, so we're going to stamp that. Now, the positioning of the mouth is quite important. So what I would say is, if you can, she's got slightly slanted eyes there, there are little ones a little bit further up. So if you, let me try and give you some guidance. If you kind of think about, if you lay that same stamp in the middle of where the two eyes are, that way vertically, where the bottom of that stamp is roughly, so where the, let me take that off there, where the bottom of that petal is roughly where you want the mouth to be. If you go too far down, you can put it further down, but you get a completely distorted face, and you don't want to be too far up either. But basically, roughly about, I'm a little bit high there actually, so kind of roughly where the bottom of that is where you want your mouth. So we're just going to stamp that there, and you can see that that actually is going to make quite a nice face shape. And at the end of the day, if you get it wrong, don't worry about it, because it's just a bit of ink on a bit of paper. You can turn it over, you can cut it out, you can use it as practice, you know, do lots of different, you know, just try it again. So now what I'm going to do, again, this, in fact, I'm going to just use the line stamp. Okay. And I'm just going to come quite close up underneath the mouth. I'm just wondering, maybe I won't use that one. Yeah, I will. There's a couple of different things that you can do this several different ways. So she kind of looks like she's got a very wide chin here, but don't worry about that because it's going to disappear. And what we're going to do is we're going to use that same stamp, and we're going to actually create her neckline. Okay. And there's certain things that you kind of need to get in place that will then start to make it look look right. At the moment it kind of can look a little bit weird, and it starts to look better once you've got a few different things in place. So I kind of still want to get a bit more of an eyelid going on here. So I'm going to create an extra eyelid, and you can see it actually lifts the eyes right up. If I just lift that up and show you close up where we're at. Okay. So now what I'm going to do is, we have this really, really lovely flourish. Now, originally when I designed this, it was actually a flourish like this. And what I decided to do was to actually split those two stamps so that you had two completely separate stamps. But I still like using it together. So what we're going to do is start to create some hair and the side of her face. So, and this is why I'm saying don't worry too much about this chin. So we're going to literally come around the side of her face and then rotate. When you get up to where her fringe and everything would be, you want to rotate that and kind of change it around, make it different angles. Every time you do this, it's going to be different. Okay, oops, missed a bit. Don't worry about it too much. And look, that stamp has created her whole face. Isn't that cool? These just, oh, I love this. And this whole set of stamps was actually designed around this face. So I wanted you to be able to create this amazing face as well, which I know a lot of you at home, you're loving creating all the faces. This is going to be perfect for all your art journaling, all those kind of things. Now, what you do with her hair is completely up to you. You can go really way out, you can do, you know, go mad, do whatever you want to do with the actual hair. Now, as far as doing an actual nose in here is concerned, what I would say is the only bit that I didn't actually put in the set, and actually all I would do is just get a fine liner pen and draw that in, but I'm not going to do it because I want to actually colour this and I don't want my pen to run, so I'm going to do that last. Okay, so in the meantime, I want to just add some extra details in. So I've taken that smaller flourish off there, and I want her to have some curls coming right down here, and I want some curls coming onto her face to add a little bit more interest. And you know, you can go wild, you can add whatever you want in here. You just have fun, because that's what these are about. It's about pushing your boundaries, because I think sometimes we think, oh, I can't do that, that's not how it's supposed to be. Well, in art, nothing's supposed to be like anything, and everything is relative. One person's art is someone else's. No, I don't like that, you know. And so there are no rules with Stamp Soup. It's all about creating your own rules. So I'm kind of going to make her some eyelashes. So we're going to push those around and actually really get those under her eyes. And I'm going to use the other set, actually, the other one. Let's use. So if something's not working, then swap it over. And then you can actually create some bottom eyelashes, bit of interest around the eyes. And you can go as mad as you like. I love bubbles and circles, as you know, so I'm going to kind of go mad with this. But look how it's building right up. And you can, you know, if you feel like the chin's not quite right, pull the chin in. You can actually make her face a different shape if you just kind of over stamp and go a different way. You can even add a little bit under there if you wanted to. Completely up to you and what you want to do. So what I would do then is I would just actually start to colour this in, but I've already done that because I don't want to kind of waste any time. So this is one that I've produced earlier. So you can see that with this, look, my two faces are completely different. And this is what I love, is that you're going to get a completely different result every time you do it. So this is one that I did earlier, and I've just coloured this with my paints. You could do it with your inks, with whatever you want it to be. So what I want to do now with this is, and you can see, look, I haven't actually put that nose in there, so I'll just show you how to do that. So you're kind of just going to come up, and it's about, you want to be about the height of the top lip here, so don't go any further than that. And then really all you're going to do, I'll do it on this one actually, just in case I go wrong. All you want to do, you're about there, so you see how that's about the same height as between there and there, and just do a little curve. Everyone can do that, and that just kind of adds that little curve in. I actually kind of painted a nose in with shadow, so I'm going to leave it as that. Now the other thing that I just wanted to do is, I just put that to a side. So I've been making flowers, so on the same principles that I showed you earlier, I've made flowers, butterflies, leaves, all of these really amazing bits and pieces. So what we'll do is we'll just quickly finish this off. I'm just going to get some glue and we're going to actually decorate. So all I did was I actually put a curve on my flowers. So I just got my bone folder and actually bent these round. So I actually cut my flowers out, and I did them by hand because it didn't take too long. And what I want to do is just decorate this. So I'm going to put some leaves underneath, and you can go really full on with this, because it's up to you how much you want to decorate basically. So I want that coming down here. I'm going to just put another leaf in there, and then I think we'll have, I've got 2 butterflies here. I think we'll just have the pink one. So I'm going to put a pink butterfly there, and I've got an extra leaf. So this is a completely different leaf. Now this leaf, I did this just to show you. This is the mouth, look. So that's actually the mouth stamp that we've just used. So again, completely different leaf shape on that one. So I'm going to do that one as a trailing. Actually, we will put this butterfly on. We've got it there. I want to use it. I thought I had some more flowers, but I've either lost them on the way or I used them on something else. We'll put that in there. And how lovely is that? And I would kind of probably go on a bit more. And if you're really into mixed media, if you did that, you know, and started gessoing and did it, you know, as part of a journal or a book or a canvas, you'd just get an amazing result. And you know, I just love it. It's entirely up to you how much you want to decorate or how much you don't, but I hope you love that as much as I do.